Kemi Badenoch, you've launched this terms of reference today. You say because Labour are failing in their duties for this national inquiry. Why have you set them out?
It's really important that we keep this story alive and that we make sure that there is progress. Nothing is happening right now. We know that Labour didn't want to have a national inquiry. They've been stalling and it looks like they've kicked it into the long grass. They can't find a chair, so we're doing our job as the opposition, setting out a terms of reference so that we can get things moving again and do right by the survivors.
One of the chairs, potential chairs who withdrew in October, Jim Gamble, he said one of the reasons he was doing so was because of the political point scoring and opportunism taking place. In launching this set of terms of reference, you're taking the aim straight at Labour. Are you not doing the same thing that caused Jim Gamble to withdraw from the process, talking more about politics than about the issue more generally?
Not at all. Labour are the government, we are the opposition. It's my job to hold them to account if they're not doing things properly. And this is a classic example of Labour not having a plan, not knowing what to do. They need us sometimes to actually tell them what to do and how to do it. This has been a political issue for many years. What we need now is political courage to actually get this done.
Well, the father of a rape gang survivor, Marlon West, who's been giving a quote as part of this release, said that political parties now need to be working together in collaboration as part of this inquiry. Did you speak to any other politicians from any other parties about this terms of reference before you launched them?
Well, we are trying to work together with other parties. We're trying to work together with Labour.
But did you speak to anyone about this terms of reference,
at the end of the day, we are His Majesty's loyal opposition. The Green Party is not interested in this.
Did you
the Lib Dems are not interested in this.
Did you reach out to them?
SNP,
Did you reach out to them? Did you react to them?
There was only one Reform MP who was interested, and he got kicked out of Reform. So right now, I'm not going to spend time talking to people who show no interest and have been criticising us. My job is to talk to the government and make sure that they get this done.
I mean, they may think this is an opportunity to collaborate with you. You've not spoken to any of those parties about this proposed terms of reference.
They've not reached out to us at all. They can see all the work we've been doing. They can see that the survivors are coming to us, working with us. If other parties were interested, they would have reached out.
Okay.
The fact is, they're not.
Well,
there was only one Reform MP who was interested, and they've kicked him out. They use this for political opportunism. I am doing this because I actually care what happens to those girls. Their stories are heartbreaking, and I'm not going to waste time with people who want to faff about. Let's get this done. Jess Phillips needs to do her job. Keir Starmer needs to make sure we get a national inquiry.
Well, looking at what you want to be investigated in the terms of reference, there's some specific references to clans and networks of abusers. What are you referring to there when you want the investigation to look at that? Is it about sort of family networks and organised abusers?
We need to look at the cultural aspects that may have had an impact here. And that is on both sides. The cultural aspects that might have meant certain communities were more likely to be perpetrators, but also the cultural aspects on our side where people ignored the plight of a lot of very vulnerable young girls. Those things do need to be looked at, and that's what we're referring to there.
Are you also expecting this inquiry, are you going to put pressure on it to look at wider criminality? One of the things that we found at GBNews is that the grooming gang's abuse is often linked to drug networks and gun running. This is organised criminal gangs operating across the country. Do you have confidence that this inquiry can look into that problem?
I think it can, but it's also important that we get this done as quickly as possible. We want a 2-year inquiry. Judge-led, that can be a retired judge, one that happens concurrently while legal proceedings carry on. We don't want something that's going to stop people from going to prison or being investigated. This can be done. I've had experience with inquiries before. I'm a former Secretary of State. With the post office scandal, I saw how the inquiry was being used as a way to stall justice for the victims. So it's from that experience that I'm speaking now. I don't want to see that happen again.
One final concern that we've heard more generally from survivors, even in the last week or so, is that they're nervous that this inquiry's scope will be quite limited in terms of time, that it won't go back far enough to look at migration patterns, to look at how these networks are formed. How far back do you want this inquiry to look? Because there are concerns it could start perhaps in the very modern era.
I think we need to make sure that there is balance. We want to make sure we have an in-depth inquiry, but we also don't want to go on for another 20 years, as we've seen some inquiries do. So that's something which the government needs to look at. We've put out a terms of reference that we think covers that balance quite well. If people think that there's something wrong with that, well, let's have a conversation, let's have a debate. But right now, nothing is happening. It's been a year since this issue came back into the public eye, and I want to make sure that we do right by the victims.
Just finally, there's a lot of controversy in Scotland at the moment. There's been an announced a review there, which the SNP have launched after the Conservatives, and also Scottish Labour MP Joni Reid was campaigning strongly for an inquiry north of the border. Do you want Scotland to be included as part of this national inquiry as well? Because we know that victims were trafficked to Scotland. We know that these grooming gangs operated in Glasgow and Edinburgh as well.
A national inquiry is a national inquiry. It should look at the whole of the UK. And the fact that all this happening in Scotland is a review shows that the SNP is also not interested in looking at this properly. There's only one party that is brave enough and competent enough to get this done. That's the Conservatives. And those who want to see this issue dealt with should work with us.
Kemi Badenoch, thank you very much.
Thank you, Charlie.
Well, we can now cross live to Charlie Peters, who is there in central London. Charlie, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, an interesting interview from Kemi Badenoch there, particularly at the end, speaking about Scotland, some pressure on the SNP, saying that this national inquiry, which was launched in June, expected to look at just England and Wales, the Conservatives now saying that that should extend to Scotland. That comes after quite a lot of controversy about a review announced by the SNP government last week into the gangs, after a lot of pressure, particularly when GBNews revealed a Glasgow grooming gang last month. Also some discussion on collaboration, which we heard during the press conference here moments ago, speaking about opportunities for other political parties to get involved and questions for the Conservatives on why they didn't reach out to other parties before launching this set of terms of reference. But I'm very happy to say now joined by one of the panellists from that event, Fiona Goddard, a survivor and campaigner from Bradford. Fiona, what do you make of this Conservative announcement today?
I think that the terms are really good. I think that they highlight the key issues that have been controversial within the grooming gang scandal and gone unaccounted for so long, while also acknowledging other people's experiences and making sure that all grooming gang survivors' experiences are taken into account.
Some pressure on the Conservatives about collaboration, about not reaching out to other political parties. You've been calling for all people to get involved. Do you want other parties now to get in touch with the Tories and campaigners to make sure that happens?
Yeah, I would encourage every political party to come together, reach out to the Conservatives and become a force to be able to make sure this inquiry is done properly.
And what are you saying to the Labour government now? Because it's 6 months on since this inquiry was announced. There's criticism from a lot of people about the lack of progress. They say they're committed to this inquiry. What's your perspective?
I think it just needs to start making progress. They need to get on with it. They need to start listening to what people are saying and take things into consideration rather than thinking they know better.
Fiona, we've been speaking to a lot of survivors engaging with the government on this, and they've been saying recently that they're quite concerned about the terms of reference in terms of how far back it will look. And Kemi Badenoch, speaking to us earlier this morning, said that this inquiry should be expansive. It should look back into when these crimes happened. No limit on that. Do you share that perspective?
Yeah, I think that no matter how long ago it was, if someone comes forward with an experience as a grooming gang survivor, it needs to be taken into consideration and become part of any inquiry, excluding survivors, exclude certain information that could be so important to the bigger picture.
We're also hearing information from Kemi Badenoch saying that this inquiry should go to Scotland. Now, you told us last month about you being trafficked from Bradford to Glasgow at the height of your abuse. Drugs were involved in that as well, the same pattern that we saw in so much of England and Wales. But what's your reaction to Kemi Badenoch's demand that this inquiry goes all over Great Britain?
I think Scotland definitely needs to have an inquiry that needs to work hand in hand with the government in England. I think the problem is doing one together can then broaden the scope a bit too much. So if Scotland did its own that fed into the UK one, it could also work as holding the UK inquiry to account and the same vice versa. So then we can make sure that there is no cover-up happening within the inquiries as well.
Fiona Goddard, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you. Bye.
Well, we've heard there from Fiona what she wants in Scotland as well as across the country. So many demands now we've heard from the Conservatives, what they want in this terms of reference, looking at ethnicity, religion and wider patterns of criminality as well. I think that's going to be the next big focus in this national conversation, is the links between these organised criminal gangs and the grooming gangs, the links between drugs and guns and grooming networks of abusers. More pressure for the Labour government, who have said that they are absolutely committed to launching that national inquiry, that it will focus on ethnicity. They say it will focus on religion. The Labour government adamant that that will take place. But 6 months on, since that announcement in June, there is significant frustration about how long that process is taking. And what we've heard today, ensuring people put that pressure on the scope of the inquiry and the time limits that it has as well.